Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Amit Kumar, a civil engineering student of Faculty of Engineering, Lucknow University. I am here with a presentation on the topic aircraft crash on runway. But before going in detail, have a look on the topics which we will cover in this presentation. Our first topic will be a brief discussion on runway designing. Then we will switch on our second topic, that is factors affecting runway length. Our third topic will be problems during takeoff and landing. Then the type of landing and discussion over the recent aircraft crash in Kerala in August 2020. And finally, we will conclude with the precautions and measures that can prevent such aircraft crashes. So let us start with our first topic, a brief discussion over runway designing. There are two international bodies which gives recommendation regarding basic runway length and their designing. The first is ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization, and the second one is FAA, Federal Aviation Agencies. They give certain specifications regarding the designing of basic runway length. First is standard height at mean sea level. As per ICAO recommendation, it is assumed that basic runway is designed at mean sea level. As per ICAO standard, temperature of basic runway length is taken at 15 degrees Celsius. A local body temperature of a particular area is called ART, Airport Reference Temperature. It is basically the hottest month of the year. The third specification is regarding the labeling of airport. Runway is labeled in longitudinal direction. The fourth recommendation is about the aircraft loading. As per the recommendation, during the designing of basic runway, aircraft must be loaded at its full capacity. Fifth specification is about wind speed. Wind speed is taken 0 for the basic runway length designing. Now we are going to deal with our second topic, that is factors affecting runway length. There are certain factors which affect runway length while designing. The first is based on basic runway length. The runway length is divided in 5 segments from A to E. The segment A stands for the longest runway with a minimum length of 2200 meter, and E stands for the shortest runway over a length of 600 meter. Runway length also depends on the equivalent wheel load of an aircraft. That is basically the size of aircraft. For bigger aircraft, runway length requirement will be more, and for a smaller aircraft, it will be less. It also depends on wind speed. Runway length requirement will be more if landing and takeoff operations are performed along with the direction of wind. Wind parameters are graphically represented by a diagram that's called wind road diagram. There are certain specifications for wind speeds. Permissible wind speed for a smaller aircraft is 15 km per hour, and for bigger aircraft it's up to 25 km per hour. There are certain corrections involved in the designing of runway. The first correction is elevation correction. ICAO recommend that basic runway length should be increased by 7% per 300 meter rise in elevation over mean sea level. The second correction is regarding temperature. ICAO recommend that basic runway length after correction from elevation should be increased by 1% for each and every 1 degree Celsius rise in temperature from the standard temperature for runway. The last is gradient correction. IFA recommend after elevation correction and temperature correction, length is to be increased by 20% for each and every 1% increase in gradient. Now we are switching with our third topic, that is problems during takeoff and landing. First is wind direction. From our earlier discussion regarding ICAO recommendation, it's already been clear that the direction of wind plays an important role in deciding runway length. As such, the direction of wind is not favorable, it will create a major problem during takeoff and landing. So for safe landing and takeoff, the wind direction must be in opposite direction with the aircraft speed. Second is the climatic condition. like cloud and thunder creates difficulties during takeoff and landing. Same hindrance is also created by the visibility on runway. Runway location also matters. There are certain steep and steeper runway designed due to lesser availability of plain surfaces on mountain areas, which creates problems and hence demands very precise and careful landing and takeoff process. Oxygen content in air also creates problems when it's not sufficient to burn enough fuel for the safe landing and takeoff process. Type of landing and takeoff. First is normal landing and takeoff. As such, there is no significant hindrance for the takeoff and landing. These are performed. But in case there is any hindrance or any obstacles in the path of takeoff and landing, full flag landing is performed. This is basically the steeper declination or inclination of aircraft during takeoff and landing. In case of any emergency during takeoff, emergency stop is performed to stop the aircraft on runway itself in stopway. An aircraft crash on runway happened in Kerala on 7th August 2020. Air India Express flight 1344 was flying from Dubai to Cochin Airport. Due to bad weather condition and heavy rainfall, landing processes was very difficult. 3 attempts were made for landing, and on its third attempt, the aircraft touches down runway number 10, but skidded off the end of the tabletop runway and slipped down, resulted in the death of 19 passengers, both of the pilots. 4 crew members along with 165 passengers were rescued, among which hundreds were injured. Now we are here with our last topic, that is precautions. Proper monitoring of conditions on runway during takeoff and landing by ATC can prevent such aircraft crash. Suitability of runway for landing and takeoff, the length of runway for particular aircraft, which whether it is suitable for that or not, and proper forecasting of weather conditions can prevent such aircraft crash. That's all about our presentation. Thank you very much.